But have you seen enough now to conclude whether or not former President Trump should be indicted?
You know, MAGA Republicans have done, and you look at the definition of fascism.
And so many people, they just bought the narrative that was being promoted by CNN and MSNBC and wherever, that if you get vaccinated, you can't get COVID, you can't spread COVID.
Will former President Donald Trump, get indicted? We'll see. A bunch of the affidavit stuff came out on Friday, and pretty much all of it was redacted. Joe Rogan had a conversation with Rodgers that was super interesting. The fascist MAGA Republicans, according to KJP, and also the governor of New York. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. On today, it is August 8th, the year of our Lord. Sorry, what? August 29th. The month is 8. I was thinking in my head 8/29, which also coincidentally is my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. 42 looks really great on you. Getting started with things today, a lot going on over the weekend, so much so that I had a difficult time trying to figure out what the heck to actually talk about today. I'm going to get to this Trump, will he be indicted, will he not be indicted thing, and I felt like that was going to take too much of the conversation. So where we are going to talk about Bill Maher and the student loan debt crisis and what happened to the Washington Post, all of that stuff tomorrow. So if you want that stuff tomorrow, but I want to talk about this specifically more today because of how freaking bananas this all is. And I use the term bananas because Banana Republic has been thrown around quite a bit in the last couple days. What does it look like if the current president prosecutes the former president and also presumptive nominee of his challenger, the party that's going to challenge him? Talking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump in this. So on Friday, our like noon-ish, a super heavily redacted version of the affidavit used to get the warrant to raid Mar-a-Lago was released. Heavily redacted. It ended up pleasing no one, I think, over the weekend. Basically said everything we already knew. Oh, there were some documents in Mar-a-Lago and Trump kept them and didn't give them back, and they tried to get them back and he wouldn't give them back, and most of it was stuff that we'd already heard before in the last, 3 or 4 weeks since this happened. So that's not really any new information. But I thought it was fascinating, the whole idea and the conversation swirling about whether or not he's going to get charged with a crime and therefore prosecuted by the DOJ. It seems in a lot of circles that nobody really has any idea. Now, over the weekend, the New York Times, if you weren't following up with this, their editorial board did then recommend in their editorial section that they recommended prosecuting and indicting President Trump, former President Trump. That's their opinion. Bunch of lefties over there, not super surprising. But I did think on ABC this week, a guy named Dan Abrams is their legal analyst guy. I think he had a pretty solid thing to say about just kind of where we're at in this. The conversation is whether he should be indicted versus whether he will be indicted. And that's what this conversation between George Stephanopoulos and Dan Abrams was on ABC this week. Watch this clip and we'll discuss on the other side the ramifications of it, whether or not it's a good idea, whether or not this matches the Clinton and the Nixon test, as Alan Dershowitz will read from him. There's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about surrounding this whole thing. A lot of variables to cover coming up right after this clip. Check this out. Actually, by the way, if you haven't already, click the little like button or the little react button, the little share button. Really, really does help us out. Really appreciate you doing that. Or comment in the comment section. let us know. A lot of people saying, no, he won't be indicted. He shouldn't be indicted, which are two different things. Saying he won't and he shouldn't are two different things. We'll discuss that. Check this out. ABC This Week. Watch this.
A lot of redactions in this affidavit, but have you seen enough now to conclude whether or not former President Trump should be indicted?
No. Not in terms of whether he should be indicted or whether he will be indicted. He could be indicted. There's definitely enough here to potentially indict him. When you look at the words of the statutes and you look at the actions, there definitely could be an indictment here. The most important part that's redacted, though, relates to the obstruction. And that, to me, is what this all is going to come down to. And it's not just an obstruction of justice charge. It's exactly what actions were taken to thwart this investigation, to thwart getting back those documents. That could also determine whether there are charges in connection with the other statutes there.
Well,
intentionality.
Separate from the statutes dealing with classified documents. If the president knew he had the documents and refused to return them, that's obstruction under those statutes, correct?
It absolutely could be, right? It could be. But the question, again, comes back to the level of intentionality of the conduct in deciding whether to indict, right? They're two separate questions. You could indict. There's no doubt that you look at the words of the statute, you look at the actions, and people are going to say, well, of course there could be an indictment. The question of whether they will indict is a separate question.
And let me bring
So I thought in watching that was a pretty fair analysis. Now, the thing that I thought was interesting, this is from the New York Post, quoting Alan Dershowitz. Again, in the New York Post. They said any grand jury in D.C. would indict Trump on the evidence that he had classified material in violation of various statutes. Again, that's all. I don't want to say that's fine, but that's to be expected. The super lefty, super blue D.C. area having a grand jury indict the president would not be surprising at all. But Alan Dershowitz, he told the Post by phone on Saturday, but cautioned the Department of Justice for pursuing the case. The Harvard law professor, this again is Alan Dershowitz in the New York Post, cited the failure of the probe, he's talking about Trump, to meet what he called the Nixon and Clinton test, the former being able to establish broad bipartisan support. So the Nixon test being, okay, so there's not bipartisan support of XYZ. When Nixon got booted out of office or resigned, however you want to look at it, there was bipartisan support. Both Republicans and Democrats saying, yeah, you can't do that. There is not that in this case, which is part of the reason why Alan Dershowitz said, let's be careful, DOJ, about prosecuting a former president here, because there's not bipartisan support, so it's going to look like a witch hunt, which a lot of people, especially in the comment section here, are already saying that it is. On top of that, he said it didn't pass the Clinton test, being a demonstration that Trump's conduct is materially worse than Hillary Clinton's own past mishandling of classified information. Remember, Mike Pompeo, when this first happened, said, just so everybody knows, they had proof that Hillary Clinton had classified documents in her possession, but then decided not to raid her home like they did Mar-a-Lago. Let's see. The highly redacted FBI affidavit justified the raid's intent was to secure classified government documents that they believed to be at the Mar-a-Lago estate. Over 184 classified documents retrieved. 25 were marked up as top secret. 92 were labeled secret, and another 67 were confidential, the affidavit says. Now, here's the other question. When we're talking about classified information, the president of the United States, and I don't know why this is not being talked about really much anymore, probably because the conversation is entirely over the legality of him keeping the documents. But what I don't understand why isn't being talked about is the process by which the president can declassify information. Let's just say hypothetically, Donald Trump, while president, decided that all of the documents that he kept at Mar-a-Lago, which I think we can probably assume that he did do that. That's, I think, probably a good general assumption. He did have documents, government documents, at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, is that illegal? Well, they're classified, everybody says. Okay, but also the president has the ability to declassify documents. The problem that I feel like a lot of legal people are arguing over is there's really no process by which the president declassifies them. Generally, there's paperwork filled out, but there's nowhere in the Constitution or the law that says there has to be paperwork filled out in order for the president to declassify documents. Could it be, and again, this is a legal question that I don't know the answer to, could it be that the president waves his hand over the box of classified information and says, I deem these declassified? Does that mean they're declassified? In which case, does it mean that he's allowed to, not allowed to have them because they still think they're government property, but does that mean there's really no huge issue with them being at Mar-a-Lago, considering when he was the president, he could have, nobody knows this, waved his hand over the box of classified information and says, these are no longer classified, because the president has the power to do that? There's no formality behind this, so nobody actually knows, and the legality of it is being questioned by pretty much everybody. I don't know why that's being talked about, not being talked about. But also, talking about whether or not we should indict him. Hypothetically, let's just say Donald Trump broke these crazy laws and has these classified documents at his house. I'm not saying that I think that. I'm just saying hypothetically, let's look at it if your big lefties were right about it. Okay, what happens next? I want to talk about that, but I wanted to play this clip first that'll lead us into the conversation of, well, should you indict a president of the United States? It hinges on one question. Well, okay. I'm going to play this clip from MSNBC because I thought this was fascinating, and this is the way that people are looking at this on the lefty side of the aisle. Just a disclaimer, forewarning you, they're all saying stuff like, oh, yeah, this is clear evidence that he broke the law in every way, shape, or form. Okay, fine. Let's just hypothetically, I'm not sure of that. You're not sure of that. Nobody who's being honest is actually sure about that. But let's just say hypothetically, for the sake of argument, we'll go with that. Watch this clip from MSNBC. We'll discuss it on the other side. Check this out.
When I read this today, my big overarching takeaway is, and I know this is just a prediction and speculation, but I'd say it's an educated one, is that the former president is going to be prosecuted. I don't see how you cannot, given this information, not just that it's so clear that there is an active, thorough investigation and just how much was done here, but when you compare it to precedent, we compare it to General Petraeus, which happened when I was at the Bureau, and I think Frank may have been at the Bureau as well.
Okay. So MSNBC is saying, no, he has to be indicted because look at the precedent. The precedent is David Petraeus, who, if you're just looking at this logically, was not the president of the United States. So where does the precedent go from there? Well, there's definitely precedent in this other situation that wasn't nearly the same level as the president of the freaking United States. What I'm saying here is they're making the case that no, precedent says that if anybody else did this, they would be in big trouble. Okay, but they didn't. Adam Kinzinger on whatever channel he was, and I know a lot of people not big fans of Adam Kinzinger. I'm not a big fan of Adam Kinzinger. Said, well, if we took documents out of the federal archive and took them home, we would be prosecuted as congresspeople. So why not the president of the United States? Okay, well, because it's different. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying the argument being made that, well, the precedent is that this would happen. There is no precedent here. There's no precedent whatsoever for a sitting president having classified documents, which he may have declassified before he took them to his Mar-a-Lago estate. Nobody knows. Anybody who's being honest and telling you, I absolutely know this for a fact, is freaking lying or just oblivious to how the world works. That was a little bit of a tear. So here's the big question that I think we want to get to. Hypothetically, and getting back to this hypothetical of, okay, let's pretend, and again, all this is up in the air, let's pretend that Donald Trump did something crazy illegal with these documents. First things first, I'm not entirely sure how bad that could be necessarily. Oh, he has the secret plans to building a nuclear submarine, and he's doing it right off the shore of his golf resort. Trump has his own nuclear submarine because he has classified documents of how to build one. We don't actually know what the classified documents are. Maybe they're sensitive information. And also, tangent on tangent on tangent on tangent. Remember, the president is very well guarded by the Secret Service of the United States. I would imagine whatever documents were at Mar-a-Lago were pretty well protected, again, by the Secret Service. So there's that whole thing to consider. But the question that I want to ask, and I'd like to ask you in the comment section, because I feel like this is what everything really hinges on. Hypothetically, again, if all of this is terrible, Donald Trump definitely broke the law and definitely did XYZ, whatever they're saying on MSNBC. Hypothetically, do you indict a sitting president if the risk is losing the country? If you do justice to everyone and everything, and the result of that is that you lose the country, what have you done? Do you follow the letter of the law to a T, which I'll remind you hasn't been done in so many other circumstances? Hillary Clinton, do you follow the letter of the law at all costs and lose the country because of it? Because look at the optics of it. Hypothetically, if Donald Trump actually did something wrong in classified documents, which is a much different crime than crimes have varying levels of degrees. Keeping a couple boxes of classified documents that he may have declassified, and nobody really knows the functionality of whether or not he can or cannot do that, or how he does or does not do that as the president of the United States, doesn't really rank super high on my list of things to do. And I would like to think, being fair, if the FBI raided Barack Obama's house while Donald Trump was in office, and all he was doing was keeping some documents and some mementos of letters written by foreign leaders to him, I don't think I'd care that much. I don't think I care that much here. But where was I going with that? Oh, if you end up losing the country in the process of following the letter of the law, what have you done? Is it worth it? Because the optics of it would be the president of the United States, Joe Biden, imprisoning a former president and the presumptive Republican nominee, his challenger. What does that look like? I don't know. I wrote it out in my notes here, and this is kind of interesting, at least I think. All of this goes away if we go to war with China. If for some reason we go to war with the rising superpower, as is generally the case, what is that? The Thucydides trap of the rising power always goes to war with the dominant power. This all goes away. I don't know why I decided to throw that in there. But anyways, I had this big piece from the LA Times, which I thought was freaking interesting too. But I know we're going on 20 minutes of talking about this. But there's so much to freaking talk about. There's so many angles and so many variables. I'm going to read this from the LA Times. If you haven't already, would really appreciate, I'm looking right now, there are more of you watching than have clicked the little reaction button, the little like button, the little share button. Really, really does help us out. I really appreciate you doing that. It doesn't cost you anything if you're watching, especially on Facebook. Clicking the little reaction button. Maybe this makes you very upset. Maybe this makes you fuming mad. Or it's making you laugh for some reason because you have a sick, twisted mind and want to laugh at the downfall of America. But clicking the little like button really helps us out. So really appreciate you doing that. Here's a little bit from the LA Times, and we won't get super into this. With so much unrefuted evidence, which that can be clearly argued by anybody, the argument is in favor of indicting Trump. Straightforward. No one is above the law, not even a former president. But, and again, this is in the LA Times, but even some longtime Trump critics argue the indictment of a former president is a terrible idea. They've made three arguments. First, that it's unseemly for a president of one party to prosecute the former president of another. That would be terrible precedent, making the United States look like a banana republic. That word is being thrown around quite a bit. Second, prosecuting Trump would further inflame the nation's division, even possibly inspire violence. Which I also think would be a huge freaking problem. You know what? We'll kind of leave it at that. The bottom line is, even your super lefty outlets like the LA Times is struggling over, let's just say hypothetically Trump did something terrible. Do you indict and possibly cast the country into further chaos? You know, because currently the political discourse is just so civil and everything's flowery and rosy. I don't know. But the big answer here is I don't freaking know. And in the comments, let me pull up some of these comments because I think they're kind of interesting. Chris a while back said Trump broke no laws. Whether or not he'll be indicted, Gloria said, it depends on what they planted. Ooh. Actually, I don't know. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I would be very concerned about that, given how the FBI has spent all of their goodwill tokens way before now. And then this from the opposite side of this argument, or the Trump side. He should be charged with murder for January 6th. I would love to see that justified there. I don't know. That's a weird comment, and not entirely sure how you would make that make sense. Maybe we'll get some clarification. Brandon says, yes, they want the country in chaos. There's a person, okay, so in the comment section here, so I read all these all the time, and I don't want to get too off the beaten path here, but there is a person that a lot of you comment back to, and you say a lot of mean things to this person. I won't bring their name up here, but you say a lot of mean things, but I can never find any comments that this person says. And so I wonder, I don't know. I don't know. You guys are all irritated at somebody who doesn't exist, or maybe I'm just missing the comments here. Kind of interesting. Let me see. Somebody said it's FJB season. Yeah, college football kicked off on Saturday, and FJB chants echoed throughout stadiums across America. I'm more of an LGB kind of guy, a little bit more civil, but anyways, a lot of you commenting on the whole murder charge thing. Yeah, that's I don't know. We'll see if that person decides to justify what they said. Anyways, the big problem, or the big concern that lefties have, is MAGA Republicans, which brings us to this. KJP last week said something kind of interesting and by interesting, I mean crazy, that I thought we should bring to you today. KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, who is not good at her job. And I say that respectfully in the sense of, I understand the job of the White House press secretary. Jen Psaki, I obviously disagreed with fervently on pretty much everything she said, but she was good at it. She had talent in the field of spinning questions and trying to come out ahead of the White House press secretary the press briefings. KJP is not good at that job. She's obviously, from a policy standpoint, I disagree. But I do acknowledge that people can be good at the job of spinning the questions. KJP is not good at that. Listen to what she said the other day regarding the MAGA Republicans. Check this out. Also, I still see more of you watching currently than have clicked the little like button, the little react button. We'd really appreciate you doing that. Again, helps us out a ton. So if you wouldn't mind just clicking the little like button, the little share button, would really appreciate you doing that. Watch this from the White House press briefing room.
On the semi-fascism comment, is this something we're going to hear more of, that phrase? Is it something the president's going to kind of embrace? Or is there any sense that it was a little impromptu and it's going to turn into a kind of basket of deplorables thing that he regrets and then tries to be quiet about?
Look, I was very clear when laying out and defining what MAGA Republicans have done, and you look at the definition of fascism, and you think about what they're doing in attacking our democracy, what they're doing in taking away our freedoms, wanting to take away our rights, our voting rights. I mean, that is what that is. It is very clear, and that's why he made that powerful speech that you heard from him last night, and he has not shied away from saying that.
Okay, all right. Okay, again, KJP, dude, not great at the job. Making the case of, MAGA Republicans are fascists, because if you look at the definition of fascism, that means they're X, Y, Z, Here's the problem with a lot of what she said. And look, again, I'll admit, even if you were good at the job, she would have used the example of Roe versus Wade. It's not a good example. It's dishonest. It's misleading. It's all of those things. But I would use that example. No, she used voting laws. Well, they're trying to take our voting laws away. No, dude, again, I don't agree with you. I'm not on your team. But freaking play the game right, dude. She used voting laws, which is not a good example to use there if you're trying to call one party fascist, because nobody agrees with that. Remember when President Biden said, this is Jim Crow on steroids, beating of black people in the streets for voting in the South. Apparently, having to show your ID to vote in Georgia is worse than beating black people for the sin of voting in, I don't know, wherever that happened. That's what he said. He said showing your ID is worse than that. And everybody saw through it, and KJP still uses it as an example. I thought this was funny from Gabriel, who is probably the biggest fan of the show. Really appreciate it, Gabriel. Says MAGA equals fascist pigs, but Antifa equals teddy bears. Laughing face. Yeah, no, it's almost comical. The whole Antifa thing, well, they're anti-fascists. They're anti-fascists by instituting fascism. If you don't agree with me, I'm going to beat you in the head with a bike lock, says the Antifa people, quote unquote Antifa. Antifa is fascists. They're a bunch of fascists running around telling people that they're anti-fascist, and the stupid drive-by media believes them. I also thought this was interesting, not interesting, just good point. Kayleigh McEnany was magnificent at it. Yeah, whether or not you agree with Kayleigh McEnany, I happen to like Kayleigh a lot. She was very good at the job. Again, even super lefty Democrats would admit, yeah, she had her stuff together. Sarah Huckabee Sanders also had her stuff together. And again, you might not agree with this, but it's true. Jen Psaki also was pretty good at that job. KJP, not good at that job. So there's that. And speaking of MAGA Republicans, talking about the governor of New York made headlines over the weekend saying something kind of interesting, telling Republicans that they're not really New Yorkers and they should just move to Florida, which I'm sure most New Yorkers who don't like the craziness going on in that state, especially in New York City, we're kind of like, yeah, I wish I could. Check this out from the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. Watch this.
And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values. You are not New Yorkers.
All right. Okay. So first things first. What a ridiculous thing to say. The Republicans, you don't represent our values, so you should leave. Like, no, they're going to stay and fight. That's the whole point of politics, especially at the state level. You stay and you fight. I mean, I don't blame other people for, especially people in California who have moved to Texas or Idaho. Please don't California those states. But I understand it. At the same time, I also understand the people that are going to stay and fight. Kathy Hochul, I would imagine, wouldn't be telling Michiganders who don't like conservative values to move out of state. Now, it's a swing state. You're going to want to have people stay in that state. But also that I wanted to, look at this clip. Kathy Hochul, and I don't generally like attacking people personally. She seems so robotic. Now, politicians are robots in a lot of ways, shapes, or forms. But Kathy Hochul, just get out of town, you Republicans. Just watch this clip again. If you're listening to the podcast, sorry, you're going to hear it again. But it's like 13 seconds, and just watch her mechanics of I am supposed to say this, and this is how I will say it. Get out of here. Just watch that. That's what I thought.
Here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values.
Right? Am I right here? She just I don't know, seems like an animatronic Disney character in the Hall of Presidents of, get out of here, you Republicans. I don't know. Holy cow, we are way over time already. Gabriel said Disney developed her. Yeah, the animatronics at the Disneyland Resort. Wow. I can't bring this comment on, but because he used some bad language here. But somebody said, I'm not fighting for California. F this place. It can burn in hell. I understand that. John says, please don't move to Idaho. I was in Montana 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago now. And we were driving through a small town. We stopped into a convenience store to grab some lunch. It was a town of maybe 400 people. And the lady, super nice lady in Montana, was like, yeah, where are you guys from? Where are you coming from? Where are you driving to? I said, we're driving from Bozeman to Fort Benton, but we're from California. Don't worry though, we're not moving here. And I saw her go, oh, California, and then relaxed when I said, don't worry, we're not moving here. People in the Idaho states and the Montana states and the Texas states are kind of please don't come here. Oh, wow, geez, a lot of people. Don't come to Alabama, said Kimberly. Okay, yeah. All right, sorry. Californians, don't move out of state. Stay and fight. That's what I would like you to do, because I live in California and would appreciate some people on my side fighting along with me. That would be great. You know what? We're way over the times here, but this is interesting. We won't belabor on this too much. This is so Aaron Rodgers, quarterback, Green Bay Packers, NFL football. NFL football. That doesn't make National Football League football. If you say the acronym out and then say the sport, it doesn't make any sense. But Aaron Rodgers went on Joe Rogan's podcast. I think that launched on Saturday. Immediately, I listened to the majority of it and thought some of the clips were hilarious. Remember, Aaron Rodgers last year during the NFL season got in some hot water. I don't want to say got in trouble, because he wasn't in trouble. Nobody, the media just decided to hate him for 3 months. But basically, he was talking about his whole vaccination thing of, well, yeah, he said, one, he was allergic to something in the mRNA vaccines. So the Moderna and the Pfizer ones, he had some sort of allergy. He said the CDC on their website said, if you have this allergy, do not take Moderna or Pfizer. And then he said, well, that just left Johnson & Johnson, and the Johnson & Johnson one at that time was not known for, but said, hey, if you can get the other ones, because there's possibly a blood clot thing with the Johnson & Johnson one. Then he said, basically, I'm a professional athlete. I've done some therapy and treatment for COVID to best protect myself. So that's why I didn't take it. Got in some hot water for doing that. That basically summarized the first hour of this conversation for you just right there. Aaron Rodgers kind of was in some hot water, explained his side of the story, was very, very reasonable, very, very sober-minded about it. It was really interesting to listen to him talk about it. But he said this wasn't a politics thing. This is like a personal health thing. And I think Joe Rogan agreed with him. But I thought that what they were talking about was pretty dang interesting. What Rogan was talking about specifically regarding how the media handled the whole vaccination thing was pretty dang fascinating. So that's why I wanted to play with you, even though we're over the time here. If you haven't already, I know I've said this 3 times already. Would really appreciate you clicking the little like button down here or the little share button over here. Really, really helps us out continue doing this show each and every morning, Daily Caller Live. I would appreciate you doing so. There are literally 1,000 of you watching right now across all the different platforms, and like way less than that liking the thing. So really appreciate it. Just it doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the little on your phone or on your laptop computer. Really, really helps us out. Anyways, watch this. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Just engage with the post in any way, shape, or form. Really helps us. All right, here we go.
Hindsight is 20/20, right? We're looking at it from after it's over. And so many people, they just bought the narrative that was being promoted by CNN and MSNBC and wherever, that if you get vaccinated, you can't get COVID, you can't spread COVID. That was the narrative.
And that's my thing. Listen, I get it. Like, you want to test everybody every day? Cool. Yeah. That's fine. You don't want to keep people safe if that's the benchmark for it. But as we look back now, let's not revise history. Let's not revise history on what actually happened and what was said. Because what was said was, you get the vax, you can't spread it or contract it.
Yeah, no one seems upset that that was a lie, including Birx, who has said that she had always known that it was not going to stop transmission and it was not going to stop people from spreading it, which is wild. That she would say, we knew that you were still going to get it, even if you got vaccinated. Which is, no one said that.
No. Pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the whole thing. He makes a good point. Let's not try and rewrite history here. Let's make sure that people know that this is what they said at the time, and it all ended up being wrong. For going forward, let's have that all in our mind. I got one more clip for you, and then I got some hilarious comments here in the comment section. Yeah, well, I'm going to read some of these comments. They're going to be very funny. But watch this last clip from the Joe Rogan show with Aaron Rodgers talking about the whole COVID thing. Check it out.
What do they call the winter? The winter of death or whatever for the non-vaxxed?
I saved that. Winter of death and suffering.
Yeah.
It's like they were Game of Thrones. Like they were talking about the fucking White Walkers coming. Winter of death. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's so wild, because at that point when they had said that, we had already realized, like, oh, this is 78% of the people hospitalized were obese. Most of the people that died were either obese or very overweight or very old.
Comorbidities.
Yeah, 4 comorbidities, at least 4 for like more than 50% of the people.
So, again, they're just pointing out, and why I think this is important is a lot of people that are watching this episode right now, you probably follow politics quite a bit. I follow politics quite a bit. And I think there's a tendency sometimes to get trapped into a bubble of, well, we're all paying attention and therefore we know XYZ and assume that everybody knows XYZ. For people, so another massive podcast is this guy named Tim Pool who does Timcast, and Tim is an unbelievably smart and sharp and talented individual. But when I was on his show, a couple months ago, he had brought up something, and I had kind of said, like, dude, I think people that watch your show know, people in your circle know, but I think the majority of America doesn't know what we're talking about right here. And I think that's a big problem within the media scope of assuming that people know certain things. And why I think Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers talking about this sort of thing is so important is I feel like Rogan and a lot of his guests represent the majority of Americans who just aren't paying the most attention. I'm not trying to be diminishing or devaluing in any way, shape, or form. But the majority of Americans, have different priorities. They go to work, they take care of their family, they have their hobbies and all that sort of stuff. And so us here that watch these types of shows and that stay super, super in tune with the news all the time tend to forget that not everybody is like us, who stay completely affixed to all of the current events every single day. And so why I think Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers talking about this and remembering how this all worked is because I feel like they represent a broader population of people who aren't so ingrained all the time. And I feel like them talking about it is important to understand where normal Americans are. And I'm not trying to say Joe Rogan, who made $100 million from Spotify, or Aaron Rodgers, who's made, a bajillion dollars in the NFL, are normal, everyday, average people. But in terms of their news consumption, I would imagine they kind of are, or at least a good representation of people who are like that. Before we go, there's a lot of comments I want to bring that I just thought were funny. Check these out. I'm going to change this chyron here because it doesn't really make sense to have Aaron Rodgers looking like that. So before we leave here, so we talked about people moving different states. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, like, if you don't if you're not a Democrat, move to Florida. And I talked about, how about you stay in your state and fight? That's what I'm doing in California. That's what a lot of people in blue states are doing. But a lot of people in the comments section took some heed at that notion and said, hey, do or don't do XYZ. We already brought this one up from Kimberly that said, don't come to Alabama. Hector said, stop coming to Arizona. Gabriel, frequent correspondent, said, stay out of Iowa. Pablo even said, don't move to Mexico. Californians, don't ruin Mexico, he says. Maybe that's a joke. I'm not entirely sure. Jamie said, California jacked up Colorado, too. Which, is just kind of interesting. Dang it, there's another comment. I hope they didn't delete it that I wanted to get to that I feel like I didn't star, but it was I ruined it. I ruined the joke here. Not the joke. It was the going to different states. Anyways, somebody had commented, and apparently I lost the comment. A bunch of people saying, don't come to this state. Don't come to this state. Somebody said, yeah, go ahead and come to Illinois. This place sucks also. I just thought that was funny. Somebody said, please don't move to Idaho. I won't be able to find it now. Dang it. Ruined the punchline because I'm bad at what I do. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Chance said, come to Illinois. We suck anyway. Good to end it on a fun note. Illinois and California at a race to declare bankruptcy, but that's a different topic for a different time. Holy cow, we ran super long today, but tomorrow, going to have some interesting stuff. Bill Maher just went nuts on the student loan thing. Sorry, no. He went nuts on the Hunter Biden thing. The Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, hashtag Democrat, a very liberal news outlet, their editorial board said the student loan thing is insane. We'll get to that tomorrow. Also, this is breaking news as of an hour ago. U.S. Embassy office staff are being evacuated in Baghdad. So the Baghdad embassy is being evacuated by helicopter. Some crazy stuff going on. So if anything happens there, we'll bring it to you tomorrow. But that's happening like now. And I was seeing a bunch of videos, again, being helicoptered off of the roof of the embassy, the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. So anything like that happens, we'll also bring that to you tomorrow. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend. Couldn't get to all of it. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. Again, happy birthday, Mom. My mom's turning 42. Or at least that's what we all like to say to, I don't know. Yeah, she's actually 42. Happy birthday, Mom. Love you and hope you have a great day. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts at JOBOB. Pretty much be able to find me anywhere. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm getting snarkier on Twitter. I don't know if I like that about myself. That's just what's happening. Yeah, you can find me on any of those social media platforms. Whew. That was a wild one today. We'll see you tomorrow. Anything else happens with the FBI indictment thing, we will bring it to you. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking around, especially for the long episode. If you haven't already, I'm going to one more time. Click the little like button, the little share button. Really, really does help us out. I actually really, really appreciate when you do that, depending on wherever you're watching, specifically Facebook. The little like button, the little share button really, really does help us. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Catch me on Newsmax tonight at 9:45 Eastern, 6:45 Pacific. Pacific with Mercedes and Jen, I think, on Prime News on Newsmax this evening. Anyways, stop talking, stop rambling. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.